Most people walk through life waiting to be told who they are. They look outside themselves for confirmation, for instruction, for permission, but there comes a moment, sacred, quiet, and undeniable, when the soul whispers a truth louder than any shout from the world. You are not alone. You never were. You were born with something more than breath. You were born carrying the fingerprint of God, etched into your spirit with purpose so holy that no man, no failure, no fear could erase it. But the tragedy? Most never act like it. They shrink in rooms they were born to fill. They whisper when they were made to thunder. They beg for clarity when clarity is already living in their chests, beating, pulsing, waiting to be claimed. You say you believe in God. Then why are you walking like you're lost? Napoleon Hill said, "Whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve." But belief is not enough. Belief must become behavior. Conviction must become motion. You must act as if God is within you, because He is, not just when you're confident, not just when life feels easy, especially when it doesn't, especially when you wake up doubting your value, especially when the silence feels unbearable, especially when you don't know what's next, because that's where power is forged, in the stillness, in the trembling, in the decision to move anyway. Edison did not wait for confidence before he created light. He failed forward again and again because he acted on something invisible. He moved as if he was guided, because he was. That same force flows in you, but it will not shout. It will not fight for your attention. It waits. It waits for you to remember. Remember who you are when you stop pretending. When the opinions of strangers no longer weigh more than the voice of your own soul. When you no longer perform to be accepted, but stand to be aligned. To act as if God is within you is not arrogance. It is surrender. It is obedience to something higher. It's the posture of a soul that says, I know who walks with me, and I will no longer walk as if I'm alone. Because when you act as if God is within you, you stop asking the world to approve what was already ordained. You no longer wait for signs. You become the sign. You no longer cry out, Lord, send help. You rise and say, send me. Your movements change. You do not hesitate like a man unsure of his next step. You walk like one who knows that the ground will appear under your feet. Because faith is not hoping. Faith is motion. And faith without action? Dead. You don't need more podcasts, more sermons, more evidence. You need obedience to the voice that's already been whispering in you since the day you were broken open to become whole. Do you think Moses waited until he had the perfect words? He stuttered his way into legacy. Do you think David waited until he felt like a king? He picked up a stone while the whole army watched from behind. Do you think Esther waited until it was safe? She stepped into purpose, knowing death could greet her at the door. And you are still waiting to feel ready? What if I told you that feeling ready is the enemy of becoming ready? That those chosen to carry divine assignments rarely feel qualified. They move anyway. You do not carry greatness because you earned it. You carry it because you were assigned it. And the only thing standing in the way is your refusal to wear it. So wear it, stand in it, breathe with it. Let it enter every cell, every word, every decision. Because this is not a self-help strategy. This is not about motivation. This is about alignment. When your soul aligns with God within, you stop performing for approval and start embodying truth. That's the difference. Arrogance pretends. Alignment lives. And when you live like God is within you, you no longer panic when plans fail. You understand delay is not denial, it's divine positioning. You no longer shrink when you're misunderstood. You know that being chosen often means being set apart. You no longer rush for results. You trust in divine timing. Knowing what is yours cannot be stolen. Napoleon Hill wrote about definiteness of purpose. But what's purpose without power? What's desire without discipline? What's vision without the fire to walk through the storms required to reach it? The divine was placed within you for activation, not admiration. It does not need your compliments. It demands your cooperation. And when you finally say yes, truly yes, not when it's easy, not when it's popular, but when it's costly, that's when the heavens shift in your favor. Because now you're not just another voice repeating empty affirmations. You're a vessel. You're a flame. You're a son or daughter carrying the breath of the Creator in every action. Act as if God is within you, because He is. Act as if God is within you, and you'll stop chasing motivation. You'll begin cultivating discipline, because motivation is loud and fleeting. But discipline is quiet, sacred, eternal. It's what wakes you up when you don't feel inspired. It's what puts pen to paper when no one's watching. It's what lifts your hands in worship when your heart feels heavy. Discipline is love in action, the highest form of self-respect. It says, because God dwells in me, I treat my time as holy. Because God walks with me, I guard my thoughts like treasure. And this is where most people fall short. They speak of calling, but live in chaos. They preach alignment, but tolerate environments that poison their peace. They pray for clarity, but binge distractions until their spirit forgets what silence feels like. You cannot carry fire and flirt with destruction. You cannot be a vessel of purpose and walk through life unguarded. Let me ask you, if God Himself handed you a flame to carry through this life, would you hold it carelessly? Would you toss in a room full of noise, addiction, laziness, and confusion? Or would you protect it? Would you clear the space? Would you walk differently? You are carrying the flame. But if your life is cluttered with distraction and delay, it will smolder, not because the flame is weak, but because it needs oxygen. Oxygen is silence. Oxygen is space. Oxygen is obedience. When you remove what drains you, the flame grows. When you starve the noise, the whisper speaks. When you stop checking who's watching and start honoring who sent you, you become unstoppable. Because the man who protects his peace walks in power. Not loud, not arrogant, but present, still, like a lion sitting in the sun, unbothered, unhurried, unmistakably royal. You see, the greatest among us are not always the most visible. They're often the most consistent. They're the ones who show up when no one else does, who obey when no one else understands, who speak truth even when it costs them. They know that their gift is not a performance. It's an assignment, and they treat it that way, just like Hill taught us. Successful people make decisions quickly and firmly. Why? Because they don't wait for the world to validate what God already approved. They don't overanalyze what was born in their spirit. They move because they were moved. They build because the vision burned. They persist because their purpose is louder than their fear. That's the kind of man the world cannot control. That's the kind of woman the darkness fears. The kind who acts as if the divine is not above or beside, but within. When you act as if God is within you, your identity is no longer up for debate. You're not guessing who you are. You're remembering who you've always been. You stop asking the mirror for confirmation. You stop looking at followers, likes, applause, or credentials to tell you what you're worth. Because the one who carries the divine doesn't perform identity. He embodies it. You begin walking as one who understands. I was chosen before the world ever knew my name. I was called before I had clarity. I was equipped before I ever felt ready. This is why legacy becomes a compass. Not comfort, not applause. Legacy. You ask, what am I building that will outlive me? What seeds am I planting that will bear fruit when I'm gone? What message will echo through my silence? And that's where your life starts to shift. You stop chasing popularity. You start cultivating power. Not the kind that controls others, but the kind that liberates them. The kind that sets people free. The kind that awakens a man who's been sleeping through his own life. The kind that shakes a woman out of her fear and into her fire. Because the one who acts as if God is within him doesn't just live. He leads, not through force, but through example. He doesn't need a title to command attention. His presence becomes the proof. And when storms come, and they will, he doesn't fold. He doesn't panic. He doesn't run. He stands. Because when the world shakes, the man who built his foundation on divine alignment does not move. He's not reacting. He's rooted. He's not performing. He's planted. Do you understand what that means? When others are guided by trends, he's guided by truth. When others are slaves to opinion, he walks in quiet conviction. And when others exhaust themselves chasing opportunities, he becomes the kind of person opportunities chase. Because the one who walks with God within does not knock. He becomes the door. He doesn't plead for favor. He carries it. He doesn't beg for open doors. He builds them. He doesn't shrink to make others comfortable. He rises to show others what's possible. And this is where Napoleon Hill's philosophy becomes holy ground. Definiteness of purpose, faith, persistence, the sixth sense. These are not just tools for wealth. They are the instruments of divine alignment. Hill said, when the subconscious mind is flooded with faith, it triggers infinite intelligence. Let that hit you when your thoughts align with your calling, when your discipline aligns with your desire, when your decisions align with divine design. You become a vessel of unstoppable force. That is not theory. That is law. That is what separates those who wish from those who become. You do not need more time. You need more alignment. You do not need more motivation. You need more movement. You do not need to be louder. You need to be anchored. Because when you act as if God is within you, you no longer move from pressure. You move from power. So now comes the question, what's stopping you? You've been praying for signs, but the sign was always you. You were the one sent to disrupt the pattern, to break the cycle, to rebuild what generations forgot, to live in such a way that heaven recognizes itself when it sees you move. But most won't do it, not because they're incapable, but because they're indecisive. And that is where the battle is lost, not in your strength, but in your silence when a decision is required. The man who acts as if God is within him decides. He doesn't delay. He doesn't wait for comfort to catch up to calling. He moves when the inner voice says go. Because Napoleon Hill was clear. Indecision crystallizes into doubt, and doubt crystallizes into fear, the worst of all enemies. If you wait for certainty, you'll bury your purpose under a pile of good intentions. Faith is not proven by thoughts. Faith is proven by motion. The dream will not materialize because you believe in it. It will materialize because you moved as if it was already done. Let that sink in. The results you seek already exist, but only in the dimension of obedience. You don't unlock your destiny by peeking at it. You unlock it by walking toward it like it's already yours. That's why acting as if God is within you means you must become a man of decision, a woman of spiritual authority. You don't need 5 signs. You need one yes, and the courage to follow it. You don't need every step mapped out. You need to take the next one, the one already in front of you. God doesn't send blueprints. He sends momentum. And once you move with it, the path unfolds. Not before, not during overthinking, only in motion. It is not the strongest that win. It is not the most intelligent. It is the ones who act without delay. That's why you must destroy the old version of you, the version that hesitates, the version that needs reassurance, the version that lives to be understood by the crowd God never sent. Kill it so the new you can emerge, the you that walks in certainty, not because life is certain, but because the one within you is. You don't need louder prayers. You need deeper alignment. You don't need more credentials. You need conviction. You don't need the world to open a door. You need to remember that you are the key. This is what it means to act as if God is within you, to walk like you've already been approved, to speak like heaven is echoing every syllable, to create like the Creator is crafting through your hands. And when that switch flips, your voice changes, your posture changes, your prayers sound less like, please God, and more like, thank you, now show me how to build. There comes a moment when the man who has remembered his source no longer blends with the noise of the world. He does explain his light. He becomes it. He doesn't chase influence. He radiates authority. Because when you act as if God is within you, you stop measuring your worth by external applause and start moving to the rhythm of divine assignment. People around you will start to notice, not your style, not your status, but the weight you carry in your stillness. You don't need to prove what's inside you. It proves itself in your consistency, in your tone, in how you say no to what once controlled you, in how you show up when no one is watching. It's not about appearing powerful. It's about being spiritually anchored. Because the man who carries God walks like it. He walks slowly, but with purpose. He speaks softly, but every word lands like thunder. He builds patiently, but what he builds cannot be shaken. The world doesn't know what to do with a person like that, because you're no longer trying to become something. You've remembered what you already are. You are the vessel. You are the temple, the carrier of something eternal, the bridge between the unseen and the manifested. That's what Napoleon Hill hinted at when he spoke of infinite intelligence. He didn't just mean a source to access. He meant a presence to embody, a divine mind that works through you, not just for achievement, but for transformation. So here's the call, not just to believe, but to embody, not just to wish, but to walk, not just to hope, but to carry heaven on earth through the way you live. You don't need to feel qualified. You are chosen. You don't need to shout louder. You are already seen. You don't need to ask, is now the time? Because heaven has already answered with your breath. Yes, now. So the next time fear says, you're not ready, you look it in the eye and say, I never needed to be. I'm aligned. You no longer beg for signs. You become the sign. You no longer ask for the way. You are the way, because he lives in you. So rise, build, speak, move. Act as if God is within you, because he is. And once you remember that, nothing will ever move you the same again.